My name is Gregg Bleakney. I'm the director of The Birders. The Birders is a long-form documentary film commissioned by the Colombian government to promote birding-related tourism in Colombia. Colombia has more birds than any other country, almost 2,000 species. We filmed the documentary in the northern part of the country because of its amazing bird diversity. For example, on the Santa Marta Mountain, just near the Caribbean coast, there's over 20 endemic species. Those are birds that only exist on a thin strip of land on the side of that mountain. When I first started researching this film, there are two things that stood out as different with regards to birding in Colombia. The birding culture in Colombia is much younger than other parts of the world. In the film's birding guru, Diego Calderon, is a perfect example of this. When I was first learning about him, his friends kept calling him things like the godfather of birding or the founder of bird guides in Colombia. So I was expecting someone much older, but he's only in his mid-30s. And that youthful energy is something that I think is really emblematic of the birding community here in Colombia. So I thought that maybe the typical way of producing a nature documentary, with like a narrator and a classical music soundtrack, well, maybe that wouldn't be authentic to the birding culture here in Colombia. And I noticed when I was out scouting locations for this film that Diego and some of the other biologists involved, they would use their ears, not their eyes, to find the birds. I thought that in addition to the visual element of the documentary, that perhaps we could more deeply connect our audience to the story of these birds through audio. So we identified 5 different bird species to represent the audio story of this region. We made birdsong recordings for each of these 5 species, and we gave those recordings to 5 young bands based in Colombia. And these bands just created these rockin' tracks from the birdsong recordings from each one of these birds. We use these tracks to score the documentary film and also to create a record. The second thing I noticed when I was out scouting for this film is that birding in Colombia is a real adventure. These guides and biologists are always finding new things.
Being a bird guide in Colombia is absolutely crazy. We are basically living the Victorian times of exploration. You can choose a remote corner of the country, and almost for sure you're going to find surprises. New species, new subspecies, new range extensions. Colombia is a box of surprises.
Yeah, you got him base jumping.
I wanted to produce this film as a birding road trip adventure. We recruited National Geographic photographer and videographer Keith Ladzinski as Diego's kind of partner in crime for the road trip. He's climbed unknown peaks in Antarctica, he's trekked across remote China, but he also has a really, really strong passion for photographing birds. So I thought he'd be the perfect person to join Diego on this journey. By including Keith, the videographer, in the film itself, we were able to be more transparent about the way we went out and filmed these birds. For example, at times, we did use bird recordings or playback to bring birds into certain areas so that we could film them. But we never filmed the birds in controlled environments like zoos or animal farms or places that are actually created specifically for filming animals. We tried to make the film in the most honest way we knew how, and I think that was really important for everyone who was involved in this project.